We're hot. What's up, gentlemen?
Yes, we are very hot. At least I am still in Vegas.
Oh, yeah. Aren't you having like a heat wave over there?
No, I mean, it's a constant heat wave until fucking October or some shit. It was 105 today still.
Hey, at least you don't have to deal with the humidity like we got.
I think I'd rather have the humidity than the 105 at this point.
Nah, Marvin.
I think the humidity is fake news. It's not that bad. I was in the humidity for like years and years and years.
Oh, yeah, it's humid where you're from.
105 with 80% humidity is a lot of difference than 105 with 10% humidity.
I don't know.
There's not going to be a 105 with humidity, though. That's the thing.
No. The hottest it gets here is like, I don't know, 100 maybe. If it's very rarely, but that'd be the hottest.
We had a few weeks in Oklahoma where it was like 103 to 105, and it was 60 to 80% humidity because it rained a couple times.
Humidity is just like so oppressive, bro.
Pretty
You're just
muggy.
like,
when it rains during the day and it's supposed to be a hot one, it's just a little cloud that just drops a little water on you.
no good.
It's nasty.
No good. But you're living.
But when
Marvin.
it rains here, it always cools down, so it never stays in the hundreds. When it rains here, it's like it drops down to like 80. So it's like that's perfect. I'll take 80 in the fucking humidity any day.
It's been mad humid for the last couple of days. It's been cool out, but humid as fuck. So I've just kept my AC on to like deal with that. But today's like kind of the first nice night, starting to feel like fall. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That good.
Don't know what you're saying.
that good time of year where the air gets crispy.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're living, Marvin, and we're back for episode 61.
Yep.
On this, the most holiest of days that comes but once a month, Make Marvin Watch Day.
Ooh, great day.
Today we're talking about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It was my pick. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But as always, check us out, harshlanguage.tv. You can find all our links on there. And be our friend on the internet.
What the hell are we supposed to use, man? Harsh language?
So how was your guys' week?
It was good. I was recently, as you guys know, on the gaming craze, but recently started watching a little bit of stuff. Random stuff, though.
What you watching?
Well, I watched those two. Well, I watched the recap, and then I watched the 2 episodes of Ahsoka, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yep.
But then I started watching the Dark Knight trilogy.
Ah, okay.
And it may seem random, but I discovered that I had never seen Batman Begins.
What?
But I had seen the other 2.
Well, nothing surprises me about that shit anymore. So, I mean, what'd you think? Did you like it?
Oh, yeah, it was just
I think it's great.
Yeah. I
really like the first 2. The third one's a little...
I just finished the second one. I'm going to watch whatever it's called,
Rises.
the third one.
Yeah.
Probably tomorrow or something.
Going back.
But yeah, the second one is better than the first one to me.
Well, listen, The Dark Knight's one of the best movies ever made. It's just an objective fact about life on Earth. And it's not just because of the Jokers. It's not just because of Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker. It's just the movie as a whole is just a very fucking good movie.
Yeah,
like,
it's great.
I say this all the time. Like, you take the Batman element out of it, it's still a fucking good, like, caper movie. You know, cops and robbers type of thing. Batman Begins, interestingly enough, that you brought this up, I saw a tweet today that I kind of agreed with, and I was like, you know what? It kind of is a little bit. It's not, but it is. Somebody said Batman Begins is underrated. And it's not an underrated movie. It's like very widely accepted as a good movie, but it is underrated in the sense that comparatively to The Dark Knight, it doesn't get as much love as The Dark Knight because The Dark Knight is The Dark Knight. You know what I mean? But Batman Begins is a really good origin story. In fact, I would argue that Batman Begins sort of started the comic book origin story movie craze, really.
It's still in the top 5 of best live action Batman movies for sure.
I would say top 5.
Almost anybody's list.
I would say it's one
3.
of the best comic book movies, really.
Yeah.
Because Batman Begins is more comic booky than Dark Knight. Dark Knight is really when that like serious Christopher Nolan tone like steps in. It's almost like when he made the deal to make these movies, it was like, all right, I'll make you a Batman movie, and then I'm gonna make my own movie, because the two tonally are like very different.
I think I would agree there.
And Dark Knight Rises is not bad, but it's also not as strong as the other two. That's the thing. But yeah, I mean, well, I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
I enjoy Batman Begins quite a bit. I really like his training with Ra's al Ghul and like all that stuff. Really puts
the training was amazing.
It puts
him overcoming the fears and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. I like that.
And the introduction of Scarecrow was cool.
Scarecrow's a cool villain. Yeah,
we talked about that a little bit last week.
He was a good one.
His choice to hold off on doing the Joker until the second movie.
I like
introducing Batman and not like his main villain in the first movie.
Yeah.
Waiting.
Yeah, it's funny how they brought him back in the second one, but he was just immediately like nothing. Like he just got arrested like almost immediately.
Marvin,
they were going to bring in the Joker at that point. So
since we recently made you watch Batman from 1989, the Tim Burton Batman with Michael Keaton, how would you compare the two origin movies, Batman or Batman Begins? Which one do you like better?
I like Batman 89. Well, I like there's different things I like more about Batman 89. I like Batman 89's Gotham more for sure.
The Gothic architecture, huh?
The modern Gotham is like too. Actually, the like the Undercity or whatever was pretty good in Begins and they didn't really show that much of. Oh, I'm showing my nipples and shit. My bad.
Hey, I'm turned on.
Yeah. Shout out.
What else?
Shout out to Marvin's nipples.
I see what you guys are saying about the Batmans, how like in Batman Begins, is he a better Batman or is he a better portrayal of Batman? I'm not sure.
I don't think so. I think I don't know. I like Christian Bale as Batman. I don't think he's as good as Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton had that like, I don't know, that like mystery about him, I feel like. And I think that, I don't know. I maybe it's nostalgia. It's hard to say. I like them both. I do like them both. I can tell you what I don't fucking like, and that's fucking Robert Pattinson. I thought he was bad as Batman and bad as Bruce Wayne. Did not like that. And talking to Gotham,
liked his Wayne. I liked the young Wayne. I liked his young emo Wayne.
I didn't like.
To be honest,
I didn't like the emo angle, but I get it. He's like young in that, whatever. But what I did,
his parents were murdered.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely heartbreaking. The thing that I actually really liked about the Batman, because like obviously you mentioned Gotham in '89, it's like very much Tim Burton's like. It's like Tim Burton architecture.
It's way more comic booky, like to me.
Yep.
And Tim Burton's like responsible for the comic books even becoming more like gothic and like darker.
Oh, that's sick.
But Nolan took the approach. He shot most of those movies in Chicago, and it just looks like Chicago, right?
Yeah.
But what I think Matt Reeves did with the Batman was cool because he shot in multiple different cities. I think in London. New York maybe, and I forget what the other ones, but so
there's a couple different places in Europe.
Yeah, where excuse me, where Tim Burton's Batman Gotham looks like a fake city, Nolan's looks like just a real life city, and then I feel like the Reeves one sort of blended a little bit of both, you know?
Yeah.
Like it has enough elements that you could tell it's shot in a real place. But because it's shot all over the place, you can't really pinpoint which location it is. So I thought that's kind of neat.
Yeah. Begins, Gotham, that trilogy, it's just a little boring. Because we talked about how, like, Gotham itself is like a character, too, in these things. But it didn't feel like that in the trilogy.
Nolan's movies, Gotham does not feel like a character.
At all, yeah. I do still stand on Joker from '89 being like scalable to work, it like would work in the new trilogy, whereas I don't think like Joker in the trilogy would work in the '89 version of Batman.
So you're saying Jack Nicholson's Joker could work in the Nolan films, but not vice versa? Yeah, I agree with that. And back with Gotham, just another little touch. I think in Batman Begins. Well, actually, the whole trilogy, it's not really about crime in Gotham like it is in 89 or in The Batman, which is like scattered crime with like gangs and just violence and stuff like that and like poverty. Batman, the Nolan trilogy is more of a Gotham that has kind of climbed out of that. Mm-hmm. Thanks to the efforts of Thomas Wayne, but little by little you find out that they didn't really quite get rid of it. They just buried it.
The corruption went higher, and it was everybody was dirty.
So the Nolan trilogy is way more about like political corruption and just power in general, and that's why Bane, I think, is a pretty compelling villain in that, and Ra's al Ghul for that matter, because like his aim is, it's like there. Sort of like the Thanos thing, right? Like you kind of get where he's coming from. He's just you don't want to burn down a city, but I get where you're coming from. You know, you got to hit the reset button. So the two different approaches, but both very good films. And I mean, like The Batman, you know, I'm not a huge fan of it as a lot of people are, but it does have some good stuff to it for sure.
I like the representation of the mob a lot in The Batman.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of similar.
And
to,
Penguin was, was amazing in it. So
that's coming out soon.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So you stopped gaming? I've been gaming. I got sucked back in, guys. Sucked back into Tarkov, baby.
Oh
no!
This wipe is miserable.
They were gonna say Icarus.
No, it's just it's bad.
Oh, that sucks.
But I've been
stop playing it.
No, I've been having fun.
Never gonna stop playing the updates.
No, it's just the best game, bro. It's the best game. What have you been up to, Dusty?
Oh, not a whole lot. Just been busy with work. You know, we had my boss's celebration of life this weekend, so shout out Steve.
Shout out to Steve.
Rest in peace, Steve.
Haven't been doing a whole lot. Just work and visiting with old friends and whatnot when I can.
That's cool.
I haven't had a lot of time to watch anything. I've been still watching Lioness. It's good. I think we're on episode 7 now, and
damn,
I rewatched Ahsoka with a friend because I'd already seen the first 2 episodes, but she hadn't, so we watched that.
Okay.
You know, after watching Ahsoka, I almost watched the rest of the new trilogy, but I was like, nah, I'm actually gonna just watch the Batman trilogy instead.
Fair choice, a good choice too. Before we get into Ahsoka, did you guys watch the trailer for Rebel Moon?
Oh no, I didn't.
I don't know.
I actually just watched it today. Like we talked about, it was going to come out for the thing. Well, I just watched it today.
So Rebel Moon is the next film from the genius, the auteur, Zack Snyder.
Teaser trailer, 3 minutes long. This
teaser
is
trailer.
Be
it's not
amazing.
It's
basically an intro to the universe of Rebel Moon because he's going to make a couple movies in a video game, I guess.
Well, you know what I found out, though? I didn't know this. There's been quotes flying around all weekend from his wife, who's his producer. So Rebel Moon was initially supposed to be a Star Wars project.
Correct. That's how it was pitched like 15 years ago.
He pitched it to Disney as a Star Wars project, and they didn't like it.
What Dan wanted, Star Wars separate from the Star Wars lore characters, just in the Star Wars universe, but she was like, I'm glad it didn't get done because the IP, he'd be tied to it and he'd be miserable.
Zack Snyder could have given it to me, but nope. But I mean, the trailer's nothing special. People are like flipping out. Well, his sycophants are flipping out about it. It's like more of the same. It's just muted color tones, slow motion, rain, like the same stuff you could expect from Zack Snyder. But I mean, some of the special effects look really cool. I'm gonna watch it and see, what it's about. I'm sure we'll talk about it here on the show, but.
Yeah, I wasn't really going to talk about him in the news because I know you just have a disdain for him. But since we're talking about it now, we can bring it up. Like he was talking to, who was it? Polygon.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about how he's happy it's coming straight to Netflix, even though there are 2 versions. There's like a theatrical cut, PG-13 cut.
He has an hour of extra footage, he said.
I think it's 30 minutes, actually. I think it's what
this guy just can't stop.
But he's got a director's cut, and he was kind of joking about how, it's coming to Netflix. I'm happy because I don't have to worry about the director's cut because that's, that's what the fans want. That's what my hardcore fans want, I think is what he said. Yeah. They just want the director's cut, so I'm happy to release, a fucking 3-hour movie to you guys, which I'm okay. Like, if that's where Zack Snyder wants to live, releasing 3, 4, 5, 6-hour fucking movies in his own universe and it makes money, hey, go do it. and be happy.
Yeah.
I
was just kind of looking at this while you guys were talking, and it looks like almost too sci-fi. Like it looks kind of like looks more like Dune or something along those lines. Like I don't know.
It looks like
there's
Dune.
another one.
I'm sure the vision probably would have been different if it was still tied more to Star Wars, but
it looks like Dune and Star Wars had a baby.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And with Mortal Kombat as a side chick.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a lot of weird shit going on.
He was talking about in this interview, like the creator is a movie coming from the Rogue One director Gareth Edwards, and he was talking about how he got a lot of guff from Lucasfilm or Disney basically about making Rogue One because like, well, it's still the most popular movie that's come out as of late.
It's literally the best Star Wars movie.
Yeah, but they didn't. They were kind of not for it. So, like, he was talking about how he's kind of in the same boat with Snyder. And like, Snyder didn't really get to do what he wanted to do with his vision for the Snyderverse. But
funny enough that you mentioned Gareth Edwards because I was going to bring him up as well.
Mm-hmm.
Gareth Edwards, who directed, as you just said, Rogue One, also has a sci-fi flick coming out called The Creator. That's coming September 29th, which was also going to be, that was also pitched as Star Wars, a Star Wars thing that didn't get accepted.
Wow.
So we're basically getting two sci-fi IPs that are original, but were originally intended to be part of the Star Wars universe.
They were pitched as, Star Wars universe stuff, yeah.
And we haven't seen these yet. Your boy is in this, Marvin. Our boy, John David Washington.
Oh, God.
So he's just going to be the whole fucking movie. But, yeah.
We'll see.
So, I mean, listen, we haven't seen these movies yet. I don't know what they are. But instead of getting some original content, we got fucking Ahsoka, which we'll talk about. One other movie coming out that I'm looking forward to that I didn't know it was coming, November 10th, next David Fincher project called The Killer with Michael Fassbender.
Oh, yeah. I was going to... I mean, we don't have much info on that, but the poster was released.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm looking forward to that. There wasn't really... I wasn't going to talk about it because there's not much news on it, but I'm glad you brought it up.
After a fateful near miss, an assassin battles his employers and himself on an international manhunt he insists isn't personal. But listen, David Fincher is one of the best filmmakers alive, so it'll probably be a banger, and I'm very excited for that.
And isn't it coming to digital? Like, it's coming to digital like October, so it's like a month after. Yeah, I saw an article about that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I'll have to look into that.
So yeah, I guess let's talk about Ahsoka. I scrambled to watch it because you guys both watched it. And
you're not having the motivation for Star Wars content?
I actually watched 1.5 episodes. I didn't finish the second episode. And I don't know if I'm going to continue this series, to be honest. I that shit was boring, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you.
It's not for you. It's okay.
I mean, listen, I know you have an affinity for the character and like the Clone Wars like shows, and I've watched those. I've watched the movies. I dug them. They were fine. But I don't know. So like the show itself, let me just say what I have to say, then I'll let you go off because I know you probably have more stuff to say about it. But the show itself, just on the merits of the show, it looks very cheap and lifeless to me. And I don't think that's a fault of the show. I think it's like a Disney Plus thing because all their shows kind of look like that. There's like no color grading to them. They almost look like a soap opera from like the fucking 90s. I don't think the dialogue, at least in these first 2 episodes, has been good. I think it's actually kind of terrible. And it almost feels like they're trying to recreate like the cartoon where all these characters come from, but in live action form. And there's like a lot of member berries, especially in that first episode. There's like that fucking cartoon mural of them. And like, I don't know. Yeah. It feels like it's trying to appeal to children, but like also adults at the same time is kind of just the gist that I got from it. But yeah, I don't know. What'd you think, Dusty?
Well, this is for Star Wars fans that have watched the Clone Wars and Rebels. Like,
for sure.
If you're a casual Star Wars fan and you enjoy Star Wars, you're going to enjoy this, I would say, because most Star Wars fans enjoy Star Wars, whenever they can get it. But
Yeah.
If you haven't seen that stuff and you don't have a bias towards those characters, you don't want to see where Dave Filoni is going to take it. I could see how it could be disinteresting, and you don't really know what's going on, and you don't have the backstory of what all these characters have been through together, like all the characters that you're seeing. Like, you're like, who are these people? Whereas people that are familiar know and are like, oh my gosh, that's Sabine cut her hair. Oh, that's awesome.
And
you don't catch that shit.
We've recently talked about like, the batshit insane idea to like give people homework. And that's kind of what you're talking about. Like, you kind of have to watch those shows. Because I immediately picked up on it. Like, there's even I watched them, and I'm like, I don't remember a lot of it, so I'm kind of like, okay, I'm filling in the gaps with my memory and stuff. So, like,
I mean, I get the complaints against this show that I've kind of listened to and read, where it's like, okay,
I haven't really read anything about it.
There's a fetch quest to go get a map that reveals the location of a legacy character that they need to go find. Except instead of it being Luke this time for the new trilogy, it's Thrawn. Right. Who is the villain, who is the last Grand Admiral that they're trying to find to bring the Empire back.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit, you could argue, unoriginal. Absolutely. And I think it's more fan service to the characters that want to see these characters in live action. So I get the complaints, but I'm enjoying it. So
you enjoyed the first 2 episodes?
Yeah, I did. I think I kind of know where they're going, but I'll have to wait and see. What do you think, Marvin?
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. I mean, I was fresh off of the recap though, so I had all the knowledge.
Did you watch a YouTube recap or you read?
I watched Screen
You watched Ryan's
recap.
Yeah,
it was
191 episodes in 30 minutes or something like that.
Yeah,
I watched that too with my friend because she wasn't familiar with the original show, so I let her. I watched that with her, and then we watched the 2 episodes.
It was a lot. I'm interested if the Inquisitor guy we saw, spoilers, he has to be someone important. I can't imagine that it's not anyone that is just like a random Sith Lord or whatever the fuck.
Ryan has some theories about that.
You would think that, but there was an Inquisitor in fucking Mandalorian who was just fucking Gus Fring, so like he was nobody.
Well, there was a couple Inquisitors in Obi-Wan, and I think one of them got the lightsaber to the gut and lived, just like Sabine did. And
people were complaining about that. I was reading some complaints.
Yeah, because generally, that's how Qui-Gon Jinn died. Darth Maul stabbed him in the gut with a lightsaber and it killed him. And then,
hey, women are always stronger in Disney.
Well, also, let's just, to be fair, there's more
tech. Killed Han Solo.
This is like 40 years later, so there's more tech now to mend the wound.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
No, I know you are.
That was debate.
So you liked it, Marvin? You enjoyed it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy Ahsoka's fight scenes. I felt like she was moving like Snoop Dogg was moving in that fucking vampire fucking movie we watched. It's just slow motion fights. I didn't like that, but
you almost made me spit my coffee.
I can get past it.
Yeah, you can tell that Disney is cutting back on some stuff. It felt like at the very beginning when she had to fight those 4 droids, she drops down in the thing and then she cuts the holes. You're like, okay, she's jumping up and doing that. Right. They're not showing that, and we don't see that because that's a lot of CGI. And then she does, let's fight a couple of them. That's cheaper on the FX department.
I will say the CGI looks good in the show.
Yeah.
Like it looks good. I think I gave you like my issue with the show just itself, those tangible parts of it. I also don't really care for Rosario Dawson's performance, and I don't know I'm sure it's like a direction thing, not really her, because she's a great actress and I love her.
Yes, she is. Mm-hmm.
But I don't really care for her delivery of the dialogue and stuff. And the dialogue I think is just bad, so it's like a double whammy. But now for my like Star Wars fan issue with the show, and I've expressed this many times, but I've been thinking about it all day today. I think the thing that I'm bumping into is that I'm having a very hard time being excited about where Star Wars is going. And what Dave Filoni, like, I think Dave Filoni is a good writer. That's clear. And Jon Favreau is a good writer. That's also clear. But we're now, so these shows, Mando and Ahsoka and Book of Boba Fett, all of them, with the exception of Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan takes place like a couple years after Revenge of the Sith, because the kids
most
are like
of the stuff. Yeah, it's pretty close. But
well,
yeah.
but this is further away. This is like sort of right smack in between Return of the Jedi and
right where Obi-Wan was closer. Yeah,
closer to the new trilogy. I mean, sorry, right. the prequel trilogy. These are close. These are more in between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens. So, you know, I don't think the last season of Mandalorian was that great. And quite frankly, it pissed me off, to be honest, that show in general, because for 2 seasons they built up this like mystery about Grogu, who is this like really powerful Force user, and they teased that for 2 seasons. You and I discussed this on the show too, and then they just like completely went back on that like mystery that they were building in Book of Boba Fett, which was basically Mandalorian season 2.5, where they were just like, yeah, no, he's nothing special. He's a Force user, but he's going to fucking not go with Luke and train, but he's going to just become a Mandalorian, which is basically what season 3 is about. So it's just more of the same. And it was like something interesting that they kind of just snatched away. So now
they had to, they had to explain why he wasn't at the temple or why Luke didn't actually train him. And
so now 3 seasons into Mandalorian, the show is very samey every season. It's like, okay.
Real quick, when you were talking about the Force, you know, Grogu being like a special Force user and all that.
Yeah.
Did Ahsoka use much of the Force in the 2 episodes that we've seen so far?
Couple times. She used it to control her lightsabers, which I thought was pretty cool.
And she apparently used it at the temple to solve
rebuild the crime scene. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Solve the puzzles. Yeah, she used it a few times. But
I was just curious. Like, I feel like she could have, when she was like trying to stop or catch up with the ship and all this, maybe because she could have just used the Force a little more effectively. Because because I was watching the recap video and they showed how she stopped that creature from killing her as a kid. So you would think she would be like able to use the Force, I guess, a little more effectively than what we've seen so far. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and she died in I think it was Rebels, and she was brought back by the life force of the good side of the Force, and so that Al follows her around or whatever. I think she has this like, you know, legacy character shit on her, but
also purely speculation, but I think part of that is that she trained under Anakin, who is famously hot-headed and not in control of his own emotions and stuff. So she didn't
fully train. She walked away from the Jedi. Right. So while she still is a strong Force user and has the Force with her, she may not be, you know,
in full control,
because she may have turned it off a little bit, like Luke did when he walked away. But now she knows that Thrawn is on the path, so she's getting back into it and slowly rebuilding her powers. Who knows? So it's all speculation, of course.
That was partially what I was getting at. That, and also maybe she just wasn't trained that great. Because Anakin is Anakin, you know? But
because your subconscious ability is a lot different than using something actively.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
And so, so I guess so basically all the shows have been kind of like meh so far, I think. Obi-Wan was just straight bad. I didn't like it at all. Boba Fett was pretty bad for the most part. First 2 seasons of Mando were good. Now it's just kind of like, whatever. And like, I don't know. I'm just kind of feeling like all these shows have just like kind of pointless. And now they're, you know, we know they're building their Thrawn saga.
Super Omega Death Star.
No, they're doing the Admiral Thrawn saga.
They're building this towards a movie that will be a battle against Grand Admiral Thrawn again.
They're doing their own endgame with Grand Admiral Thrawn being Thanos.
But they're doing it with TV shows and ending with a movie instead of a bunch of movies.
But I think the thing I figured out what I'm bumping into, and I think that's the fact that like I know where it's all leading to, right? And I know that our heroes are going to lose. They have to, because we know that the First Order rises at some point. So this is leading to the rise of the First Order. Okay? And the First Order is from a trilogy that I fucking hate. I think it's terrible. And these shows, which we've discussed before, they're doing like kind of cleanup to get to the point where the new trilogies are.
That's what this is fill in the gaps. Is what they're trying to do. And for someone like you that doesn't appreciate that,
I just don't like those movies. So like, I'm having a hard time getting excited to be like, man, I really want to see how the First Order rises, because those three movies are just cheap knockoffs of the original trilogy. First Order's the Empire, Palpatine's Palpatine, fucking Rey is Luke, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel original to me. So all this work to lead up to something that is unoriginal and I don't really like, I'm just having some trouble with that. And then with the new trilogy, we've talked about it. There's just no clear direction. It's just no connective tissue with those. It's just like, I don't know. And you know, and again, like I want to see like interest, like I actually, funny enough, I recently, within the last week, I had to rewatch. I didn't have to, but I chose to rewatch Attack of the Clones. Watched it like literally 4 times in a row to help my friend, whom was doing a like live on Twitch reenactment of that movie. And it was very fun, but I would argue that's one of the worst movies in all of Star Wars. So I had to watch it 4 times in a row. But even watching that, like, there's so much interesting shit in those prequel movies that I find interesting outside of the Jedi and the Sith and the Anakin and this and that. And it's all like the galactic politics and like how Palpatine was like puppeteering everything to fucking eventually seize power. And like, I find that all interesting. So the exact slot in time where these shows are taking place, I would kind of want to see a show like that, like how the New Republic rose after the fall of the Empire, like with Imperial support still existing in places and like the little mini battles that are probably going on and like little scuffles. Like that's interesting to me.
Yeah. I think the kind of piggybacking off of that point in the second episode when, you know, she goes to the shipyard, whatever.
Yeah.
And they get attacked by those Empire, whatever, you know, believers still or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting, like them showing that a little bit. I didn't really dive into it too much, but showing that they're still around and all these little sects are still kind of believing. I thought that was pretty cool to see.
Well, it was, and not to get too political,
Empire apologists. I think.
Apologists.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Not to get too political, but you know, Star Wars is political. A big bulk of it is.
For sure.
So.
And like, you could kind of parallel it with what we're dealing with in real life, right? Like the fall of the Empire and the rise of the New Republic. In our own politics, we have like a new president won, and then a whole group of other people that are like, no, it's fake news. He didn't win. He was robbed. He was cheated. Trump's still the president. Like, if you took those elements that's happening in real life and put it into Star Wars, I feel like that would make for like a really interesting, like political fucking drama just in Star Wars.
Yeah.
I think. That. So, I mean, again, we all fucking loved Andor. And Andor was just like not anything to do with like the Jedi and Sith. And it was fucking great. So, I don't know. That's going to be my stance, I think, for a really long time until something like really blows me out of the water. But my main thesis is just fuck the Jedi, fuck the Sith. And I think that should be the first piece of merch for harsh language. Just fuck the Force on like a mug or something.
That's funny.
Like, I don't know. I'm over it. And, you know, she said something in one of the episodes that pissed me the fuck off. It was in the first episode, I think. And I don't remember. I'm just paraphrasing. She said something like, when they were talking about, like, the mysterious Force users that attacked, she was like, oh, these days there aren't many Force users, or there aren't many people who are, like, trained to wield the Force properly. She said something along those lines. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense because all the fucking Jedi were eradicated pretty much except for Obi-Wan and fucking Yoda and Ahsoka.
Exactly how many we know.
Sure, yeah. But it doesn't make sense in the context of the new trilogy, which tells us that literally every motherfucker is a Force user or there's many Force sensitives out there, right? So
right. Well, and that's kind of what we learned about Sabine is even though she's a Mandalorian, she's Force sensitive. Mm-hmm. Ahsoka trained her a little bit and walked away like she walked away from Anakin in the Jedi Order. But the robot that is with Ahsoka, he's like, you know, you have the fewest metachlorian counts I've ever seen in anybody that's Force sensitive. So while she is Force sensitive, she's not going to be a Jedi per se, but she does have, I mean, she wielded the Darksaber in Rebels. So
Right.
she's capable enough to fight for Mandalore with that thing. But
those damn midichlorians, bro. So yeah, I don't know.
George Lucas, shout out.
Yeah.
I saw someone say like,
Is that a Modelo? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Mm-hmm.
I was just drinking a Modelo before the stream. Go on.
Yeah.
Nice.
I might grab another one. Go ahead, Marvin.
I saw something. Someone said, "Do they think anyone actually watched Star Wars Rebels?" And I'm sure a lot of Star Wars fans have, but I'm sure there's a lot that also haven't. So, do you think they should have maybe came out with some type of intermediary catch-up thing?
Yeah, Disney should have released a recap for this. I think it would have been a good idea because Clone Wars and Rebels was so long ago. If you didn't watch it, and Clone Wars is like 8 to 10 seasons. I think Rebels is 4 or 5. It's not quite as long, maybe 6.
Yeah.
I also don't quite get what the target audience for this show is. Like, obviously, yes, the people who have watched that stuff.
Well, Ahsoka is basically the next Luke Skywalker because she's the one that trained under Anakin as his only apprentice, and she walked away. She fought him a couple times and lived. She's going to have to do it again. Well, actually, she didn't live.
She's not his only apprentice.
Ezra saved her in the timeline or whatever.
She's not even his only apprentice, technically. She's Anakin's only apprentice, but Vader had several apprentices.
Plenty, yes.
So it's like, I don't know. I don't think they're really handling.
Probably just as disillusioned with the Jedi as all his apprentices post Anakin and into Darth Vader because she walked away from it.
That would also be, that's the one thing that would be compelling to me to show. Spoilers, Marvin, because you didn't watch the new trilogy, but basically in the new trilogy, you learn that Luke became disillusioned with the Jedi because he realized that, like, and there's hints of this in the prequel trilogy. I don't know if you picked up on this when you watched it, but like the Jedi are not all that great. I talked about this before. They went they went from being like a group of do-gooders to maybe not by their own
pacifists who do the will of
they just basically
Republic.
they're government pawns basically, right? Yeah. And their philosophies aren't healthy. Like that's why Anakin was lost. There's a lot of times in those prequels where Anakin's like, I feel lost. I don't like, I have feelings for Padme. And I know I shouldn't have these feelings, but I do. And if not, I'm not a good Jedi. Like, I don't know what to do. And Anakin is a failure of the Jedi. It's not anything else. Palpatine just saw his weakness and like fucked with it a little bit, but he had no guidance. That's why I will, to the day I die.
It's like the preacher's daughter, bro. It's like the same shit.
To the day I die, I will bow at the altar of fucking Qui-Gon Jinn because he is by far and away the best Jedi because he knew that he saw the darkness in Anakin. He saw that, Anakin really just needed a father is what he needed. And nobody really saw that. And everybody, instead of, they're like, hey, don't be in love. Don't do this. Don't care about shit. Only do what we say. Like, so that's kind of what happened. So Luke realizes this years later and disbands he burns all the Jedi texts and shit and all this stuff at the with the support of Yoda's Force Ghost. And that's kind of where you are in the new trilogy. So Rey learns like, nah, the Jedi ain't shit. Like, fuck the Jedi. So
I feel like that's so extreme too. Like talking about Qui-Gon, I think they should lean more into that gray area between right and wrong. Like it's not so black and white. And we kind of saw a glimpse of that in Ahsoka from the Sith Master and Apprentice when he was having sympathy about, oh man, I don't want to kill her. There's not many Jedi left. Like it doesn't have to be like this or that. Like they should lean more into like, oh, it's not just wrong versus right all the time.
And guess what?
Jedi who survived and basically became a mercenary and trained an apprentice is like, this is how we're going to survive because
that's
fuck the Empire and fuck the Jedi Order.
Right. And they have actually leaned into those things with some of the extended universe stuff. I forget the character's name, but there's a term called the Gray Jedi. And the Gray Jedi are former Jedi who basically have, they basically have they have unlocked the abilities of both the dark and light side of the Force. They have walked that line.
Right.
And I think if you dig deep into the lore, Qui-Gon is a Gray Jedi as well. Because Qui-Gon's philosophy...
Well, I think it's a sliding bar. Like, I think, like, you're either all good, you're all bad, or you're somewhere in the middle. Like, you can't be all of both.
The Jedi and the Sith are two extremes of, like, the same coin, essentially. There's no, and neither of them have found a middle ground where Qui-Gon understood that. And that's why Qui-Gon knew how to become a Force ghost. In fact, if you read if you read deep into some of the lore, Qui-Gon is the one who taught Yoda how to become a Force ghost. And after watching Attack of the Clones, I looked into a little bit more because I was kind of thinking, I was like, because at the end of Attack of the Clones, Yoda's like, I sense dark. He says something. He's like, darkness. I sense darkness surrounding young Skywalker. The Clone Wars has begun, or some shit like that. And I was like, Yoda's a fucking Grand Master of the Jedi. This motherfucker. There's no way he was fooled by Palpatine. And this, that, and the other thing. Because also at one point in the movie, I just made myself bleed scratching a fucking mosquito bite I got outside.
Nice.
At one point in that movie, he says that. Well, it's actually right in the beginning when he's in the meeting with Palpatine about Padme getting attacked, and he's like, "Oh, the dark side clouds my vision." Like he couldn't see like what was happening, right? And I'm like, the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, "There's no way Yoda got fucking fooled." Well, if you actually dig deep into the lore, there's a lot of evidence to support the fact that Yoda knew all this shit was going to happen to begin with. He was playing the long con because. The Jedi, whatever the prophecy is that there would be a powerful Force user who would bring balance to the Force, right?
Yeah.
Well, all the Jedi misinterpreted that and just been like, yeah, of course he'll be a Jedi because the Force is out of balance. But it was out of balance, just not the way they thought. It was out of balance because the Jedi were in control, basically, and there were no Sith. So Anakin did restore balance to the Force twice, in fact. He restored balance when he turned to the dark side, and then he restored balance again when he was redeemed and saved Luke. Thus, Return of the Jedi is the name of the fucking movie. The Return of the Jedi. That's the whole point. The Jedi fall, and then they come back with Luke, thanks to Anakin. So Yoda knew all this shit to begin with.
Just for Luke to destroy it all and burn all the
Obi-Wan knew it too, and apparently so did Darth Maul, because in the cartoon, like when Obi-Wan and Maul fight, he asked him as he's dying, he's like, "Is he the one?" He says, "Yes, he will destroy. Destroy the Sith. Or he will avenge us." Because Darth Maul was disillusioned by the Sith after he was abandoned, murdered and left. He had to go back to the Witches of Dathomir or whatever to live.
So my point being is that like there was say what you will about Lucas, like I think a lot of those, he did some goofy shit in those prequels and some goofy shit in the originals, like let's face it, but like he had like a clear like through line of like, it's very clear when you watch them. And like the new trilogy fucking took a shit on all of that. Yeah, the new trilogy took a shit on all of that, and now these shows are trying to like pick up the pieces and like try to like make it make sense, and I just don't think they're doing a good job of it. I didn't mean to go on like a whole nerdy Star Wars rant, but I think it's important because like I don't know, I like Star Wars, and I know Dusty likes Star Wars. Marvin, like I don't know how you super feel about it, but like I can't just watch the shit and not like super analyze it the way that we just did. Like I just can't. Sure. It's impossible because there's so much fucking content. And none of these shows even make mention of any of the video game characters. Like I said, Darth Vader has had several apprentices, one being fucking Planet Starkiller, or whatever the fuck his name was from the video games. And whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'll probably continue watching it begrudgingly, but whatever. I did not enjoy it.
Yeah,
all that to say, I didn't enjoy it so far.
I'm looking forward to the other characters. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see. Hopefully it gets better. But yeah. Haven't watched anything else though. Been Tarkin too much.
Yep. It happens.
All right, Dusty. What kind of news you got for us this week?
We got a little bit of news.
Wait a second.
Okay.
You probably have it in your story. But you know I'm a toe stepper.
Yes.
And this particular story has a special place in my heart. So I would like to be the one to announce it.
Sure.
Because it means so much to me. So it was announced, I think yesterday, I read it, that Jeff Loveness and the other fucking guy, we knew about Jeff Loveness, but the other guy who helped write, who was supposedly writing the Kang Dynasty and all these fucking Avengers movies coming out, are no longer attached to the project. So
I actually did not have that.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So, he has been relieved of his duties. Apparently, somebody at Disney or Marvel is fucking cleaning house.
Oh, shit.
I mean, I thought we maybe have talked about that. Like,
we talked about Jeff Loveness.
Okay, so the other guy is no longer attached to it.
Yeah, Jeff Loveness he's the writer from
Rick and Morty.
But there was the other guy, the co-writer, who I can't find. I think I posted it in the Discord. Marvin, can you look through real quick while Dusty does his news? Because I totally should have had it pulled up. I made a big deal about it, and then I didn't have it.
Well, we can start off with movie delays.
Sure, everything.
WB is delaying some movies, except there's only one 2023 movie that's getting delayed. Wonka is still on track. Aquaman 2 is still on track. The Color Purple is still on track.
The remake
Dune
The Color
Part
Purple.
2. Yes. Star-studded cast. Star-studded cast.
Oh, wait, I found it. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yep,
Nice.
go ahead.
Quantumania and Multiverse of Madness writers Jeff Loveness and Michael Waldron are rumored to have been laid off as the writers for Avengers Kang Dynasty and Avengers Secret Wars. Doctor Strange is expected to be a major player in both films. So these were writers that, definitely were not cutting the mustard. So,
Color Purple's like Oprah Winfrey and
it's a great movie, the
Goldberg
original one.
and Danny Glover. And I'm talking about the new one. Like the cast for the new one. So Dune Part 2 is the only 2023 movie that got moved back. It was initially slated for November 3rd, 2023. They bumped it to March 15th, 2024. Thank you, fucking WB. I hate you.
You just did the cast of the original one, by the way. That's why I got confused.
Is it?
Yeah.
Halle Bailey.
Oh, Halle Berry.
No, Halle Bailey. What did we just see her in? Because I remember having the exact issue with her name. There you go. We talked about Mermaid. Okay, yeah, she's in it.
Yeah.
So anyway, continue. I'm sorry.
Anywho, Godzilla X Kong, March 15, 2024 was the date. They bumped it to April, so got a month. The new Lord of the Rings animated movie, Battle for Rohirrim, I think is what it's called, is April 12th, 2024. It got bumped to December 13th, so that's like 8 months.
Oh, shit.
So if you're a Lord of the Rings fan looking forward to that, get fucked. It's December next year, not April. We're on week 18, almost a third, I think over a third into the year for the strike.
I can't believe it's been that long.
Offers and counter offers, no word on scheduled renegotiations.
I saw something about Germany and Netflix. I don't know if that's in your news, but apparently they're giving... I'll try to pull it up right quick, but from what I was reading, Netflix made a deal with writers in Germany to give them more money if there are more streams. I'm going to try to find an article, though, for that.
Okay.
Interesting. That's part of the negotiations that I think that are going on. It's like how long to hire staff, residual payments, all that stuff. The PTP posted their actual counteroffer publicly. And I guess the union said that with that counteroffer came, it would be the first and only counteroffer. So that's why I think negotiations at a standstill. They were talking for a couple of weeks, but the PTP released their counteroffer, and they're like, "Yeah, good luck. That's what we're doing." Because it seems like a lot of this has to do with streaming, not making money, companies losing millions of dollars every quarter.
Yeah.
So yeah, but we might be seeing some new ideas from this, so we'll see.
Speaking of losing money, also one final thing about The Color Purple. This is a musical reimagining of the original, so it's not a straight remake. No. So that makes me feel better. No, that makes me feel better, because why remake that movie? But anyway, talking about losing money, we mentioned last week Blue Beetle is another bomb for WB, right? Well, interestingly enough, yesterday was National Movie Theater Day, where like movie tickets are like cut in half or some shit. They're super cheap. And I saw several people posting screenshots that their theaters for Blue Beetle were like packed. So maybe part of this whole people not going to the theater thing has to do with the fact that they're charging us out the ass to go see a fucking movie. Why should a movie be $20 plus Another $40 for popcorn and water and all that bullshit.
Yeah. Well, that's where they're getting you. They're basically losing money on the movies.
Well, Kevin Smith has talked about this. As you know, I watch his podcast. He bought a movie theater in New Jersey, one that he used to go to as a kid. And he was talking about it on his podcast that like theaters make almost nothing on the actual movie ticket. It's all about concessions. And if you're not serving alcohol at a theater, if you don't have a liquor license, like good luck.
Yep.
Like,
right.
So, but
That's bad.
I thought that was interesting. Like ticket prices are cut in half and people are just flooding the theater. So maybe it's not really like mid fatigue or anything fatigue. Maybe it's just that people are fucking broke.
Well, apparently there's a resurgence in Hollywood. I saw an article that I didn't really find worthy of putting in the news, but I guess there's a lot of theaters that are opening up, and they say they're getting a resurgence out there. So who knows? Yeah, Blue Beetle did all right. It made $6 million yesterday, and it made $12 million over the weekend total.
Yeah,
Gran Turismo actually topped out.
Gran Turismo
It beat Barbie. Gran Turismo, yeah, $17.4 million. Barbie was 17.1.
I didn't even know Gran Turismo was a movie.
That's the Neil
David Harbour.
Blomkamp and David Harbour. It's about we talked about this a little bit in the news. It's a like true story based on people that got really good at Gran Turismo that actually got behind the wheel of the car and were able to race the cars.
This is an interesting subject.
True life
story.
Blomkamp. I might watch this.
Yeah, this looks like a really good, fun movie. We might want to put it on the.
Oh, Hugh Jackman is in it.
I found that article, by the way.
What is it?
I can send it here in the chat as well.
You just
so it's from Variety. It's from Variety.com. The title of the article: Netflix agrees to pay royalties to creators of German series in line with EU directive. So, based on
so they were told to pay these guys because EU said you got to pay these guys.
Yeah, not by their own. Yeah, not by their own. So they have agreed to pay creators in Germany additional royalties based on the number of streams made by the series on the platform. So it's just one particular series.
Interesting.
Right.
That was made in Germany. Yeah.
Interesting.
But they're still refusing to give proper streaming shit to actors and writers. So thanks, Netflix. Keep doing good shit.
Well, Warner Brothers Discovery and AMC Networks are doing what AMC President of Entertainment Dan McDermott calls a promotional arrangement. So if you are a Max subscriber, AMC Plus will appear on the Max app in a dedicated section for both advertised and ad-free subscribers at no additional cost. The promo will run for 2 months. It's going to include shows like The Walking Dead, Killing Eve, Gangs of London, Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire, and a whole bunch of other shows. So they did this like paid negotiation where it looks like Warner Brothers Discovery is going to get these shows to put on their app, and they're going to be able to tell AMC like, hey, here's how your shows did. These shows were good. These shows were crap. And then you may see like streaming services start paying each other based on how their shows review. Like, hey, we've got a 5 million viewer over here. Do you want to fucking put it on your fucking streaming app for a little while? So instead of having to pay for 37 different streaming apps, you could just pay for one you like, and maybe some of that content you like on the other streaming services will cycle through.
We talked about that last week.
It looks like this might be happening.
Are we getting fucking royalties or some shit for the idea?
That was my suggestion. Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
I don't know what's going on. I'm getting robbed a lot.
left and right, Marvin. The fuck?
See it.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So there's
Have you guys?
Go ahead.
I don't mean to interrupt the news, but I'm looking through IMDb. I saw a trailer, I forgot to mention it earlier, for this movie called Strays with Will Ferrell and Jamie Foxx. That looks kind of funny. They play.
Sounds familiar.
They voice stray dogs. It's about one dog.
Yes, yeah.
It's about an abandoned dog teaming up with other strays to get revenge on his owner.
That sounds great.
And it's rated R, so it looked kind of funny. We have to keep that in mind and try to maybe put that on a watch list when it comes out. And the other one that I wanted to put on a watch list is The Last Voyage of Demeter. I don't know how you pronounce it.
I told you about that, and you were like,
No, I know. Well, no, it looks bad, but I'm interested because it's actually
supposedly a pretty good slasher film, but that's about it.
Well, the thing is, though, it's based off of...
I heard about this Demeter, yeah.
No, not Dementor.
Demeter. Last Voyage of the Demeter. It's
It's Dracula.
It's the ship that takes Dracula from.
It's based off of a chapter called The Captain's
a chapter
Log
in the book. Yeah.
From Bram Stoker's Dracula.
It's just one chapter in the book. Yeah.
Yeah. What annoys me about the movie is that they made him this CGI bat monster instead of trying to just somewhat make it aligned with what he looked like in Bram Stoker's Dracula, the movie. But anyway, a little complaint. But we should watch that someday too when it comes out. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm sorry.
Also, Strays comes out digitally September 5th. So.
Ooh, let's go.
Nice. Shout out to Arlene Sorkin. She was the original voice of Harley Quinn, and she did it for almost 2 decades. She passed away.
Yep.
Oh.
We lost another one, Kevin Conroy last year, and Arlene Sorkin this year. She got a lot of shout outs from everybody in the animation industry.
And thanks to her in the cartoon, I would say very probably single-handedly popularized that character.
Absolutely popularized that character, yes.
Yeah.
So all right. So Denis Villeneuve talked about his legacy with Frank Herbert's Dune in an interview with Empire. This is what he had to say. If I succeed in making a trilogy, that would be the dream. Dune Messiah was written in reaction to the fact that people perceived Paul Atreides as a hero, which is not what Herbert wanted to do. My adaptation of Dune is closer to his idea that it's actually a warning. So we all automatically have part 1. It's done. We watched it. You guys reviewed it. I wasn't there. It was 2021. Part 2 is March 15, 2024, as we reported. It was bumped back. Dune Messiah hasn't been announced or confirmed by WB or Legendary. But it's not just an idea for Denis. He teased that there are actually words on paper. So he started writing the script before the strike happened. We may get a third Dune if the second one is as popular as they hope, which delaying it I don't think helps, but maybe it does.
You weren't here for the review, but I am impressed at how Denis Villeneuve rolled off your tongue, because I struggled with that shit, and I love him when we did the review, so good for you.
I'm a fan. He's put out some good stuff.
Yeah, he has. Gotta make Marvin watch Prisoners, though. Man.
And so this is just speculation here, Dan, but CW President Brad Swartz, he was on the Hollywood Reporter's TV's Top 5 podcast discussing CW's slate of scripted series, to which they've cut back on because they got bought out by, I think, Nexstar or something. We've got those shows to a place where why couldn't they continue if they're profitable and successful, and some of our highest rated shows? Why wouldn't they continue? So while season 4 of Superman and Lois has no release date, it was scheduled with a smaller cast and a shorter season. If they can pull profit out of it, we may get a season 5.
Oh, hope so. Great show.
So we'll see. Because they really don't have a whole lot of scripted shows left. I think they cut it down to like 5 or 10. They really went to the woodshed. They
woodshed.
And took
best on-screen version of Superman yet. Don't at me.
Anywho, on to Disney. The Spiderwick Chronicles, a completed 6-episode series from Paramount Television Studios and 20th Television now, which is a division of Disney because they bought Fox. It used to be.
Did you just say the Spiderwick Chronicles?
The Spiderwick Chronicles, yes.
Okay.
It's a kid book. It's kind of I guess,
that got
Harry Potter.
I saw that.
Well, it's being shopped to other possible buyers because Disney Plus decided not to pick it up themselves. That's a big yikes. But this is also part of Disney and everybody else cutting down. Apparently, they're doing a $1.8 billion write-down or an impairment charge for removing content.
Was this some budget-ass Harry Potter?
They've removed about 30 titles since May 26, including The Mighty Ducks, Turner and Hooch, Willow, among others.
Bro,
but yeah, they're just cutting shit from streaming. We've talked about it. Yeah. It's a write-off for them. Good. So let's get it out of here. And this is where we go back to the strike of like writers and actors want residuals, and like we can't afford that to keep this stuff up. If you want residuals, we're losing money.
It's your problem.
They lost $1.1 billion loss the previous quarter. This last quarter, they announced $650 million loss, and then they expect it to grow by $100 million. So next quarter, $750 million loss. So they're cutting shows left and right, and they're like, yeah, you want us to pay residuals? We'll just take it off our fucking streaming service. We can't afford that shit. So
That's crazy.
this is the world we live in.
Begun the streaming wars have.
This is a completed show.
Yeah, no, I hear it. I know.
That's from a best-selling book.
Yeah,
and they're like,
how do they get away with writing that off as a loss?
We'll take a $2 billion loss and cut 30 fucking shows. Hey,
Bidenomics.
Tax code. Yeah.
This looks like a fucking Walmart version of Harry Potter, bro.
I had never heard of this before. I thought you were talking about some John Wick shit.
I thought it was like John Wick with teaming up with Spider-Man.
No, some knockoff Harry Potter, I guess.
I saw a really funny thing on Twitter today, speaking of Spider-Man, since we covered Across the Spider-Verse last week. I posted a screenshot of like all the spider people in that like facility, and it was like, why does every spider person have a fat ass? Like they literally all had big asses. It was funny.
That's hilarious.
Was it an edited video or a photo?
It was a photo. It might have been edited. Maybe I don't know.
Somebody blowing up the masses, or
maybe, but it was funny. I thought that shit was funny.
That's a good joke. Yeah. Loki season 2. We talked about it, and I don't know. Dan kind of denied it a little bit because he did die. But Jonathan Major's role will be both Victor Timely and He Who Remains, according to the Cosmic Circus. They are saying that these are original scenes. They are not flashbacks to season 1 clips. Set in the Citadel at the end of time. And so they did broke the news that
I mean, I guess that
he
makes
would be
sense.
in it, and it was confirmed. And now they're breaking news that He Who Remains will return.
Yeah, he did allude to the fact that like they kill him all the time, and he comes back.
Yeah.
Like he said, I'll see you soon, or some shit, whatever he says.
So yeah.
Enough of this.
That's coming out October 6th. So we got some more MCU stuff to look forward to in just a month or two.
Did you see the news? I was gonna post it, but it's like kind of obvious, so I wasn't that excited. But apparently, saw something that like the Kang Dynasty films are gonna like serve as a soft reboot of the MCU, similar to how The Flash is a soft reboot of the DCU.
I can see that, and I hope that, and I've talked about that, how they can't continue without the legacy characters like Iron Man and Captain America, and like I get how they're changing them, and
I don't know if they'll do it like that.
We've got the Falcon, who is now Captain America, but
yeah, I don't know if that's what it meant, but I think the article was leaning more towards the fact that this will be an MCU where like we'll get fucking Spider-Man teaming up with fucking Wolverine or whatever. Like it'll be more of like the comic.
I hope so.
Which the films haven't been like that yet. Yes, we've had team ups,
but you can only do that for 10 or
sure.
15 years at a time before you have to reboot again because the characters age out or get tired of the fucking role.
Absolutely, yeah.
Speaking of Spider-Man, Jeff Trammell, writer of Spider-Man Freshman Year, which is an animated series that they've been working on. He answered a fan Twitter about any updates on the project.
Dusty.
He says, "Oh yeah, sure,
fan X.
Sorry, nothing that I can share yet. Just that I'm eager for everyone to see the show. Our crew worked and is still working hard to make Freshman Year feel special, fun, and unique. And I'm excited for the world to see it." The last real update we got from this was like mid 2022, I think, and then we still don't have a release date on it.
2022 was kind of mid.
I mean, they announced that this is, obviously they teased, I think, a Daredevil costume was the last time we got an update. It was in a Twitter or X. Well, at the time, it was a Twitter post. So,
speaking of Marvel, I saw a TikTok of what's his name, who played fucking Frank Castle. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Bernthal?
Yeah,
John Bernthal.
He has a podcast that's pretty popular. Yeah.
I have not watched any of them. I may have watched the one with what's his name? Indiana Jones kid.
His podcast TikTok posted a video that fucking got me hyped, bro. I almost jumped through the ceiling. It's basically the theme song to the Punisher show playing, and the video opens up, the camera's on his like poolside chair that's like the Punisher skull. So the chair is like it's wood carved into the Punisher skull, and it's just he comes walking into the house past that, and it's like he does this little like Punisher thing, and then it just ends. I was like, oh my fucking God.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's going to be in Daredevil. I hope he gets his own show, bro. Please. And make it good, too, please, Lord.
Sure you will. All right. Well, that's pretty much it for Disney. We'll go on to the et cetera. Not much here. Just a couple things.
Okay.
You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah.
Okay.
Is Adam Sandler's freshest film on Rotten Tomatoes with a current score of 96% fresh.
I actually just saw the trailer for this like a couple of days ago. And I'm going to watch it because I love Adam Sandler. I'm an Adam Sandler simp.
4 other films, I think, in the 90s. Hustle is the next best one at 93. So, yeah, Hustle's at 93.
Uncut Gems, right?
Uncut Gems is great, but this is more of an Adam Sandler movie.
100% Fresh is 2018 stand-up, I think, is up there. Uncut Gems is also up there. I forget what the 4th title, but he's done this. I think this is his 8th title for Netflix because he signed like a $250 million deal with him, and he's just pumping out content. But yeah, this one, you look at it, he goes from like 90s to 70s to 60s on the tomato meter, but most of those, I think.
He's just in this, though. He doesn't have any writing credits, I don't think.
Right.
As far as I could tell. But also, it has a 6.0 on IMDb, so.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know how we feel about critics here. It's I care what the audience score is, and they like I said, he goes from the 90s for a couple of stuff, and then he goes to the 70s, and then he drops down to the 50s, and we're talking about Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore and all those fucking movies that are way better than a fucking 50.
Hey, you didn't say
That's true.
Speaking of Happy Gilmore, rest in peace to Bob Barker. He died this weekend.
What's next on the
God.
thing.
Oh,
Shout
I'm
out
sorry.
Bob Barker, 99 fucking years old.
Hey, he almost made it.
99.
You couldn't give him
Almost
one
made
extra
it.
year, Lord? Please.
Same thing happened to Betty White, bro. Sometimes you just don't make it.
For 35
I'll take
years.
99 though.
Yeah. Almost 6,000 episodes. He
I
was
don't
the
wanna
host
live
of The
that
Price
long.
is Right.
I do. I'm gonna be fucking running miles when I'm 99.
He always,
Think so?
he always told us to spay or neuter your pets, kids. So shout out to Bob Barker. And if you could have done it different, would he have? Do you think?
The price is wrong, bitch.
Do you think
If
he
he
would
could
have
have done it differently? No, I
Yeah.
don't think so.
All right. Well, that's the end of the news.
And a good
Nice.
segue, because would you do it differently is the theme of the movie we're covering today.
Oh yeah.
Did
It
you mean
is.
to do that?
I did. Absolutely.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
That's
Okay.
a good one.
That was a good one. Yeah. So, folks, once a month, Marvin hasn't seen shit, for those of you that are new. So every month, Dusty or I pick a movie, we alternate and make Marvin watch something that we think he should see. And this month was my pick. And I chose one of my all-time favorite movies, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah.
Now, this is on the top 3. This is my top 3. This is on my Mount Rushmore of movies. In fact, I would say that this is probably the movie that made me like movies. Really.
Damn.
I grew up watching horror movies, as you guys know, but this is like this is the first movie that I watched that really made me like get into cinema, right? Where I started to explore the world outside of horror films and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Dusty just alluded to it. If you knew the outcome of a specific thing in your life and the outcome is bad, would you continue on that path despite knowing there's an unhappy ending? And that's kind of what Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind explores. There's a few themes and philosophies at play in this movie, which we'll get into. But
Yep.
but yeah, this film became a cult classic in the years since its release. Came out in 2004, and it's considered by many critics as one of the best films of the 2000s and one of the greatest films of all time. So let's find out what Marvin over here thought about it, having watched it for the first time.
First time. Yep.
I haven't watched this in a long time, by the way, so this was kind of fresh to me.
For being one of my
Nice.
favorite movies, I haven't watched it in a while either. I know it like the back of my hand, so like that's kind of just what
Right.
happens. And there's not like a season to celebrate to watch. You know, like I watch Halloween every year on Halloween just because I'm fucking lame like that. But yeah. So
Yeah, it's probably been 10 or 15 years since I've seen it.
So this movie is directed by Michel Gondry, and it was co-written by Charlie Kaufman, Michel Gondry. They are often a writer-director pair. But in this case, Michel Gondry actually had the idea for the film a while back, had another writer do it, and they went to Charlie Kaufman. Charlie Kaufman actually wanted to back out of the movie because around the same time, Christopher Nolan's Memento was coming out, and Memento is also a movie that deals with memories and stuff like that. So he tried to back out of the project, but was forced to finish it. And eventually it came out, and we got the movie that we got. And just briefly, before we talk to Marvin about what he thought about it, this is a love story. It's a love story with a bit of a twist. It's a love story with a bit of sci-fi injected into it, and it's about a relationship between our two main characters, Joel Barish, played by Jim Carrey, and Clementine Krasinski, played by Kate Winslet. And their relationship basically goes to shambles. And in this world, there is a medical procedure that allows you to target and erase specific memories, whether it be dead animals like you saw, dead pets like we saw at one point in the film, or a breakup. And Joel finds out that Clementine, after a big fight they have, chooses to have the procedure done to erase him from her memory. And sort of in an act of defiance, he says, you know what? I'm going to fucking do the same thing. And he has her erased from his memory. However, while during the procedure, while under the effects of the procedure, he decides, well, I don't actually really want to do this. I don't want to forget her. Yep. And the story is basically told to us. We're basically seeing the story of their relationship play out from the end to the beginning of it. But very fragmented and weird, because as we're experiencing it, it's his memory being deleted, like one by one. That's right. So it's actually a really cool and creative way to... Very good dream sequences. For sure. It's like a dream sequence. It's very good. Yeah. So that makes the plot a little bit disjointed and sort of weird, but I think it's pretty straightforward. But again, I've watched the movie like 100 billion times. What'd you think about the movie, Marvin? Tell us.
I thought it was great. I think this is definitely the best romance movie I've seen. This is probably my favorite, or one of the... Is this my favorite Make Marvin watch so far?
Really? Ooh. Better than Children of Men?
Yeah, probably better than Children
Beverly
of Men.
Hills Cop was a banger too.
Yeah, but that's a given. But he loved Children of Men.
Yeah. I did love Children of Men.
I'm glad you liked it, because I was afraid you were going to find it boring. Because it's slow. No, it's not a fast-paced movie.
I mean, it's kind of slow, but it's
it
also
be
not
weird.
A very long run time.
If you're not sure what you're diving into, and you're like Jim Carrey, you're like, oh, this is going to be hilarious.
Yeah.
No, I love. I gain a lot of respect for Jim Carrey from watching him in this, because I haven't really seen any of the other. Like I don't think I've seen like The Truman Show or whatever the fuck.
Well, he's done some dark stuff too. Yeah,
I haven't seen his serious roles.
Stuff, yeah.
I've only seen like Dumb and Dumber and fucking like.
Right.
There was like Cable
Ace
Guy.
Ventura. Yeah,
Cable Guy was kind of like a comedy, but like a dark comedy. This is probably one of his more serious roles. There was that like weird horror movie he was in that I can't remember the name of. I can't remember the name of the movie. But yeah, no, he's actually a really good. He's just a good actor, but actually, it's funny. I took notes. They actually cast him specifically because Joel, the character he plays, is sort of a very introverted and like nervous guy. He's not willing to really take risks. He's not open. Yeah. There's a lot of times during the movie through his narration, he's like, why am I so scared to even like look at this girl? And why do I fall in love with girls who give me like even the slightest interest? Right. But the producers actually cast Jim Carrey against his type. Obviously, we just said he's a comedy guy, and he's known for his ability to like ad lib. He grew up fucking on
In Living Color,
on Living Colors, like skit comedy stuff, and did some stand up. But Joel, the character, is actually based off of Charlie Kaufman's, like some of his autobiographical personality traits. But they cast Jim Carrey because he has this like everyday appearance. And believe it or not, because of his comedic ability, even though there wasn't much of it in the film. But according to the director, Michel Gondry, he said that he's quoted saying, it's hard to be funny it's far easier to take someone really funny and bring them down than to do the opposite. So it's easier to take a funny person and make them serious than take a serious person and make them funny. So that's why Jim Carrey was a top choice.
I believe that. I don't know. I mean, I feel like a talented actor.
You would think,
so this is actually funny because Dumb and Dumber, I saw an article recently about Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
I forgot the other guy's name, not Jim Carrey, but what's the other guy in Dumb and Dumber?
Not Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff Daniels. Yeah.
Yeah. Jeff Daniels was, so they were looking for someone to star alongside Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Jeff Daniels.
Not a comedy guy.
Right. They only offered him $50,000 because they didn't want a serious guy to do it, but he wanted to do it so badly that he took the role still.
Yeah. See,
and you were talking about like bring it. So I thought that was interesting that.
It is interesting, but that I think may be more of a strength of working with somebody like Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Like elevating you. Like you look at Will Ferrell. I know a lot of people like don't really like Will Ferrell. They find him annoying. He's like a wonder to watch for me because he is
Stranger Than Fiction is the one he did.
Serious role, yeah.
Yep.
He's done a couple. He did another one too where he played a guy who's like trying to kill himself, but very, very crazy. Wow. But like Jim Carrey and Will Ferrell, like they are just effortlessly funny. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like being around those type of people like really elevates you.
I watched Will Ferrell's Saturday Night Live
he's got such good ones.
Like he's like in an office and he's the office manager or whatever. He's like, don't hold all my calls, and he's playing with this thing like he's a cat. Like that's his SNL on stage like skit. Like
right,
yeah, I can do this.
Of course, yeah. Will Ferrell's he's just a funny guy, but Jim Carrey is very much in that same vein.
Absolutely, yeah. And Living Color was amazing.
But yeah, so in order to actually induce this like restraint in Jim Carrey, because he's usually very high energy. Michel Gondry didn't allow him to improvise at all, and he didn't place that same restriction on the other cast members. And Jim Carrey actually initially objected to that. Michel Gondry also put Jim Carrey off balance by giving him misleading orders or by rolling the camera at the wrong time. And Michel Gondry believed that this would make Jim Carrey forget that he should be doing Joel, like allowing him to kind of go into character naturally. And then I don't know if you guys remember, but in 2017 there was a Netflix documentary called Jim and Andy, and it's about how Jim Carrey got like really lost getting into the role of Andy Kaufman.
Right.
Jim Carrey mentions a conversation he had with Gondry in this documentary a year before they started shooting Eternal Sunshine, and this happened to be right after Jim Carrey had gone through a breakup, and Michel Gondry reportedly saw that Jim Carrey's emotional state at the time was like, he quoted, "so beautiful, so broken," that he asked him to stay that way for 1 year to fit the character. And in the documentary, Jim Carrey commented, "That's how fucked up this business is."
Yeah, seriously, that's funny.
So, little also funny note, Nicholas.
Well, he's a little disillusioned now with Hollywood as well.
He's disillusioned with a lot of things, yeah. But Nicolas Cage,
him on that red carpet, like walking around that chick or whatever he was doing, the chick that was trying to interview him, and he was just like, "You're not real." He was saying some funny shit. It was so funny.
He's like the Bob Dylan of the movie industry now,
basically. Yeah.
But Nicolas Cage was Michel Gondry's original choice to play Joel, but Nicolas Cage was unavailable. So
thank God again,
right? Yeah.
I mean, he probably would have been great, but
nah, not the same.
Not the same.
There's some roles that actors are just born to play.
And we talk a lot about Jim Carrey, but I think Kate Winslet was so good in this too.
Yes.
Yeah, she was amazing. Absolutely. She was actually nominated for Best Actress for this movie.
Wow. Yeah, she deserved that nomination for sure.
Yeah, I believe so.
A lot of we haven't even talked about the cast yet. I guess we could.
We'll get into it.
Yeah.
But because you mentioned her, let me just say I do believe. Let me just look it up real quick. Yeah, so Michel Gondry and Charlie Kaufman won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay, and Winslet received the nomination for Best Actress.
Oh, wow.
So she didn't win, but she got
one screenplay and she got the nod.
Who won over her? Does it show you there?
Don't know. You'll have to look it up while we're talking. 2004 Oscars. Or you could find it. But yeah, so Kate Winslet and Jim Carrey are stars. But there's a whole other cast of characters that are part of this subplot going on.
Monster, Charlize Theron, of course.
Oh, that came out that time?
2004, yes.
That's a great movie, too. So our other...
What was it?
Monster.
What?
Charlize Theron's role in Monster.
I don't know.
She like transformed her body to be not pretty.
That's...
Yeah. Yeah. So our other cast members are Tom Wilkinson as Dr. Mirziak. He's the creator and proprietor of the technology to brain wipe you. We have Elijah Wood as creepy as fuck Patrick.
Why is he always creepy?
I don't know. He plays a real good creep.
He's not really creepy in Green Street Hooligans, but that's like one of his first like standout roles.
We've got.
Did you guys ever see that movie Psycho? I think it was called, or what was it called? It was a Netflix movie
with Elijah Wood.
It wasn't. Maybe it wasn't Psycho. It was
definitely not Psycho. Psycho's a Alfred Hitchcock movie.
Well, yeah.
It was called whatever. Keep going.
Psychonauts.
Maniac. Did you guys ever see that?
Have I seen Maniac?
I don't know.
I don't actually think it was Netflix. I don't think it was Netflix, but it was called 2012.
This is a show on Netflix. You talking about the show?
No, Maniac with Elijah Wood. It's a horror thriller from 2012.
Yep. I have not seen this.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway,
he was a
creep in that too.
Holy shit. Marvin's seen a movie that neither of us has seen.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Do we need to review this movie?
You guys should watch it.
Do we need to review this?
I haven't seen
terrible reviews, apparently.
It's a 6.1 on IMDb. We'll see.
Yeah. But that's skewed, though, because it's a horror.
Yeah. Right.
But, yeah. So our other cast members, we got Tom Wilkinson as Dr. Mirziak. He's the guy who created this technology that wipes your brain. We have Elijah Wood as the creep Patrick. Mark Ruffalo as the and the tech guy who works for the company, Stan.
So weird to see him in anything else now.
Yeah, right.
I forgot David Cross was in this.
Yep, we got Kirsten Dunst as Mary, the secretary. David Cross as Jim Carrey's like brother-in-law or something. His wife, played by Jane Addams, Carrey, and then a couple of other people that are barely in it. But David Cross was actually really funny in this, and his dialogue isn't really like noticeable, but he's very funny in it.
David Cross is just hilarious.
Yeah, he's a hilarious guy.
He's one of those natural funny guys.
Oh yeah. So the movie's basically structured in a way where the movie opens and there's a cold open, a pretty long cold open actually. Where Joel is on his way to work. He kind of wakes up in the morning and he's like, fuck. He's kind of like down and feeling miserable. We hear the narration of what he's writing in his journal about how he broke up with this girl he used to live with and maybe he should get back with her because she was nice and nice is good. And he's on the train platform going to work and random act of spontaneity, he decides to catch a train out to Montauk. Also, a lot of familiar locations in this movie for me. The town that he lives in the film, Rockville Center, is like 5 minutes away from me and 5 minutes from where I grew up. But anyway, he goes out to Montauk and he runs into our girl Clementine. They have a couple of little meetings, one on the beach and one on the train platform, one in the diner. And on the train home, she strikes up a conversation with him, and she's kind of like a crazy bitch. Like, you know, she's wild.
She's a weird one, yeah.
Yeah, and these are just two people that, let's face it, they're not compatible. They do not have a compatibility in terms of their personalities. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's like that's the point, right? So that cold open is actually
maybe. I mean, what is compatibility?
Well, that's what the movie explores, right? And we'll get more into the philosophy of it, but I'm just saying right here in the beginning.
Wanted to lay the groundwork,
of course. But it turns out this cold open of them meeting is actually the ending of the film after they both have the procedures done.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
It's a great thing.
Like to tie it all in. I love that. Yeah.
Did you cry?
Almost did.
I cried a lot. But
shocker.
Yeah, so this is actually after the procedure, and again, we learned that she wiped her memory of him after a 3-year relationship. Then he gets to get back at her, wipes his memory, and by the end of the movie, there's this, well, during the course of the movie, while we're witnessing their relationship, right, through his fractured memories, there's the, I guess, real life subplot that's going on outside of his memory, which is between Tom Wilkinson's character, Elijah Wood, Mark Ruffalo, and Kirsten Dunst. Now, it's a little bit crazy, but Elijah Wood is one of the techs. He's basically Mark Ruffalo's sidekick.
You don't understand him when you first meet him, but then you begin to understand. He's a creep.
And the way this procedure takes place is they go to your home, they like roofie you or some shit, and you pass out, and then they sneak into your house, and while you're asleep, they delete your targeted memories that they've already mapped out of the thing you want to forget. Well, Elijah Wood and Mark Ruffalo the week prior were erasing Clementine's memory, and she was beautiful. So Elijah Wood's character Patrick fell in love with her. He stole her panties and then stole all of Joel's
they were clean.
Memory.
Basically his knowledge of her.
Basically used all of Joel's knowledge of Clementine to try to seduce her into a relationship.
Nicknames,
which would feel like a plot hole. Like
a plot hole?
You're supposed to give all that stuff up, right? And he knows that because he's working behind the scenes, but he's also regurgitating that information to the person whose mind was wiped.
Well, it's not a plot hole because she addresses it. He freaks her out.
She figures it out. Like, she
doesn't figure it out, but she's like, wait a second.
It's not as, okay, so plot hole is probably the better. He's an idiot.
Yeah, he's a moron. Yeah, right.
And not knowing that we're taking all these memories, but if I reintroduce them,
it's fucking everything up.
Yeah, I'll fuck everything up.
Right.
It's literally.
And
it does fuck her up. But
it does.
Oh yeah. She's like freaking the fuck out. But that's why when he calls her that night when they're doing the procedure on Joel, she's like out of her mind. You don't you don't quite know why, but he's basically been
unraveling her, basically,
because he's been grooming her for like a week up until that point.
But she's still feeling it. Like if you're watching it, like when he's like, I love you, and he kisses her, like she gives a weird reaction. Like this doesn't feel right. This feels wrong. Because
it's still in her subconscious. And again, we'll get to that in a few minutes. But along with this creepy Elijah Wood subplot, there's the other subplot that Kirsten Dunst's character, Mary, she's a secretary for this company, but she's infatuated with Tom Wilkinson, Dr. Merzwiak. And at one point, she like kisses him, and his wife sees it, and there's like this whole big thing. But big plot twist.
That threw me off. I will just go ahead and say I did not expect that plot twist. That was the biggest plot twist in the whole fucking movie for me.
Well, it just reiterates that, I think, one of the points of the movie. But go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, it turns out that Mary and Dr. Merzwiak had a tryst. He was cheating on his wife with young Mary, and she was so infatuated with him, in fact, that when he tried to cut ties with her, she couldn't deal with it. So she opted to have the procedure done herself to forget about him.
Well, they agreed. They agreed to it.
They agreed.
She was kind of.
She was forced into
it. She didn't opt into it. She didn't want to do it, and he's like, "This is best for everybody. Let's just do it."
When Mary,
side note, real quick, just
misogynistic shit.
Yeah. Side note on that point, I was looking at a little stuff, and they were saying the original script was like she actually like had to get an abortion and all this shit. So it was even like a little more darker than what we got in the movie.
And honestly, the way it was is like pretty effective because it's enough information to just deliver the point of the movie, also a plot point to be just like a plot device to reveal the information
for what she does later.
Yeah. So
the tired wife at the end of the rope with the girl who
when Mary finds out that she has been brainwaped, she decides that she's going to quit the company. She doesn't agree with the morality of what they're doing, and she sends out the recordings to all the patients that have undergone this procedure to let them know what they've lost. And that
how cringy was that when they were listening to those?
Oh, it's rough.
Back.
Yeah. Could you imagine? But
it was bad.
But it's actually essential to that plot point. So by the end of the movie, we realize that cold open was now the ending, and that they are reconnecting after they have both wiped their memory of one another.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie,
Clementine is the present, orange-haired Clementine is the past.
At the end of the movie, they are really hitting it off after their like little adventure in Montauk and whatnot, and they're with each other when they realize that they had each other erased. And there's this awkward moment that Marvin just mentioned where he's listening to her recording, explaining why she's trying to forget about him, and she's like, he's fucking boring, and I hate that his baby fucking face bullshit that he does, this, that, and the other thing. And then she hears his tape, and he's like, she just wants to dangle the thought of fucking somebody to get them to be interested in her, and this, that, and the other thing. And it is a really awkward moment, but it's really... it makes the ending of the movie so much more powerful because the ending of the movie is them deciding to, despite knowing that their relationship ends in failure, they still want to be together, or at least be together for the allotted amount of time that they could take each other's bullshit.
Yeah. Do it all over.
Well, that's what love is, though. Like,
yeah.
Because
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Well, I was going to say, I said do it all over again because Mary, early on, we hear her talking to the one woman who's like, yeah, we can't do it. It's
multiple times this week.
3 times in the month. You know, we can't do it. We got to schedule for the 1st or whatever. I thought that was pretty funny.
But so on its face, right, it's like I said in the beginning, if you knew the outcome of something in your life, would you do it anyway? Or how would you do it? Would you try to do it differently?
Similar question to the butterfly effect.
It is a similar question to the butterfly effect. So I said there's a lot of themes at play in this movie. Yeah. There's the theme of fate or destiny or whatever the fuck.
Fate, destiny, does love, because we have the love messaging from 2 different couples here, because we have Kate Winslet's Clementine and Joel finding each other, but we also have Mary, Kirsten Dunst's character. She had her mind wiped, and she was still in love with Dr. Myers West, Tom Wilkinson's character. Yeah, and that raises an interesting question. It's more of a philosophical question and not a film question, but the movie deals with it, and it is and that does love
question
conquer all?
Does love transcend all?
Does love transcend all, or are we even in control of our own destinies?
Sure. Fate versus free will.
Some would say yes, some would say no.
But you could argue the counterpoint in this movie that he chose to ignore all the things, but then he fought against it because he knew that. Well,
I'm going to get into that in 1 second, because that is the most important part of the movie, I think.
Sure.
But an interesting little tidbit of information, I don't know if you guys know this, but in IRL science, that stands for in real life, folks. Research,
as opposed to my science,
right?
Research tells us that we may actually not be as in control of our own destinies as we think we are. The question of free will gets thrown around a lot in real life, on the basis of religion and stuff like that.
Yep.
But science suggests that we might not actually have free will. And not in the religious sense. These studies have extensive studies have shown that every decision that we make, that we think we're making consciously, is nothing more than the sum of our life experiences. So much so that in some studies, it can be determined what somebody will choose given the choice between option A or B, heads or tails. Like, you could predict to a certain degree of accuracy what somebody will choose based on their predisposition.
Yes, if you gather enough information on a person, you can predict with some certainty, but there are always outliers and there are always unpredictable choices that you can't account for, which is something that is kind of taken into account for this movie.
But it is it's interesting research that has not been fully obviously explored yet, but we may just be the sum of our experiences. Like, what we think we might be doing by sheer, I want to do this today, like, might not be the case. And, of course, science is such that, like, there's always more to explore and figure out.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting step towards this specific topic, I think, in real life. But the other thing that it speaks to, and this is, I think, the most important part of the movie, is that our memories are important.
Yes,
because
we pass them on. It's in our DNA.
We pass them on, and we are the sum of our experiences. Whether it controls our decisions or not, it's still part of who we are. And there's also some research that suggests in real life that our memories may not be as accurate as we think they are. And I think the movie depicts this a little bit with the fact that they're very fragmented at times.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's fragmented at times because of the deletion process. That's why their faces are all fucked up and like stuff's getting blinked out of existence and shit like that. But also, our memories may not be as we think we remember them. What we think might just be a memory might not be 100% accurate because there is a certain amount of like bias and sort of like our subconscious inserts like things that we wanted to have happen into our memories. So if you think it's actually crazy to think about, and I don't think our brains could really like even quantify it because we just think what we remember is what we remember, but it might not be that way.
It's not, but
you wouldn't be able to know because you only remember it a certain way. It's crazy
that our memories are all still there, but the pathways to which we go to that information can be changed or altered such that we misremember how it actually happened because you tell it you live an event and then you tell a tale. And then you tell a grand tale, and it becomes so much so that it's your own reality that it's not. It never happened, but
and of course, all these themes are at play in this movie. But again, the central theme I think is basically using the past as a way to grow. Right?
Yes.
I think we've talked about movies having ambiguous endings before. And this has, I think, a pretty ambiguous ending in the sense of like, they're going to give it another shot, knowing what they know, that they are like, that they grow to just dislike each other and eventually break up, but they're still willing to give it a chance. But I think it's ambiguous in the sense of, will it succeed this time, knowing what they know, or won't it? And that, I guess, kind of plays into the destiny thing. Are they destined to just hate each other, or can they use the knowledge of what bothered them about each other to grow as people and be together? And that's why I mentioned earlier that at face value, they are very incompatible. But I don't think incompatibility matters as long as there are certain features of a relationship that I think are important, like communication and trust and openness and things that allow you, just because you're incompatible with somebody, doesn't mean you can't be with them. It just takes a little bit extra work. And there's a very little subtlety that I'm curious if you guys noticed. And I don't know that I've ever noticed it before until this particular time watching it, but the relationship between David Cross's character Rob and his wife Carrey, I think, is the sum of where Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet will end up, because they are fighting all the time.
Well, where they'll end up, where they end up, such that they wipe their memories, or where they will end up regardless.
No. Let me finish, because David Cross and Jane Addams, Rob and Carrey, they are bickering in every scene they're in together.
Yes.
And they're always at a disagreement. They're always
throwing
at odds.
shit at him, and he's like, "You want to smoke a joint? Enough already." Yeah.
But seemingly, based on all the information we have of them, are in a pretty well-functioning relationship. Like, they're still together. Sure. So I think they are there to represent, like, just because you argue and bicker, and of course there's going to be things you don't like about somebody or disagree with about somebody, like, it could still work. You'd still be together. Those things are kind of meaningless if love is there. If love is there, love does conquer all, usually, in a strong relationship.
I think that's where like they represent where like a normal relationship kind of ends up.
Yeah.
But I think the mind wiping, it's kind of like Inception with when they remove those memories, but there's like little seeds planted of like things they could have done differently that will give them an advantage the second time around.
Yeah, but
it's just like the finale of Inception where he's planting the seed versus the direct idea.
Yeah. Except in this case, it's not being planted. It's him discovering it as he's reliving these memories.
It's kind of planted, though. Like, if you think, especially right before he wakes up, she tells him to meet her in that's why he takes the train, because.
But that's his subconscious telling him that. That's not her.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying. It's just a seed that was planted, though.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, I could see that, but what I was getting at more is that the way the story is being told to you, like the story of their relationship, because you're seeing it in reverse. You're seeing it from the point it fell apart when he called her a whore, basically, all the way to the point they met. And every one of them has a little bit of conflict in it until slowly but sure, like it starts out.
Yeah,
where,
like you see him in the car crying and you're like, what the fuck is going on here?
Well, no, I'm saying, but specifically in his memories, a lot of it starts, we see it to us, it starts at the end of their relationship, which is at its most volatile.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And as it goes back in time to when they met at the beach party, it becomes happier and happier and more joyful and more joyful. But even through the conflict and stuff, he's discovering little bits and pieces. That's why he decides he doesn't want to forget her, because he realizes like, hey, even though this ended poorly, like this was still like an important and happy part of my life.
Well, and that's another euphemism of it's better to have love and lost than never have loved at all.
Right. Of course.
Yeah. I do think it's not so straightforward as like he sees like the possibility, or, you know, like he wants to hold on to the happy points. I think the problem is all the negative stuff is what is getting erased out first as we're going back in time. So when, at first he's not like, oh, I want to keep these memories. It's only until all the negative stuff gets erased is when he's like, oh, okay, I do want to keep these memories. But it's like,
right. Well,
you can't just factor out all of the negative things, because
of course,
played a part into the
absolutely, absolutely not. But then that's why that's why Mary, Kirsten Dunst's character, is, I think, a really important figure, because because she represents the fact that even though, like, you can't, it's hard. I don't really know how to even explain it, because yes, their target. Of course, if you're going to have your memory wiped of somebody, it's not going to be something. It's not going to be happy memories. It's going to be something negative.
But
right?
Yeah, the soul wants what the soul wants.
Fuck.
But they have to get rid of all the things, though, and they have to do it in the order. So
that's what I was getting at. So basically, what I was saying is nobody's going to go for this procedure to be like, hey, I had a great time last year with that chick. I want her out of my fucking head. It's she broke my heart, or my dog died, or whatever the fuck. I want to forget about it. So it's all based on negative experiences, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah. But
as you said, they can't just erase the negative and leave the positive, because he'd still remember her.
They have to get rid of it.
They have to get rid of it all. But
and therein lies the question. Yeah.
But Kirsten Dunst's character is extremely important, perhaps the most important character in the movie, because her experience explains that even though she had his memory, she had the memory of him wiped, or their relationship together wiped, you really can't get away with it, get rid of it all, because the subconscious is just too powerful of a thing.
It is,
That's right. Yeah,
so
I agree with that.
So even though Jim Carrey wakes up having forgot about her pretty much for everything, there's still that little tidbit of information in there that is about the happy stuff. That's why he runs to her at the end and is like, hey, I still kind of want to give it a try. I think because like he's left with that happy feeling that he had when she said, meet me in Montauk. Like, you know, and interestingly enough, he didn't give up that picture, the skeleton picture of her.
Yep. That's right.
Yeah. He found it. Did he not give it up, or did he? No. Did he intentionally hide it, or did he just misplace it and find it?
He kept it. It was like his weakness of like, this is one thing I want to give up. He broke the rules. Yeah. Right. You don't really kind of know whether it was sent to him in the package that Kirsten Dunst sends out, or if it was, but he found it. So,
that's right.
Oh, so that's your theory.
It's my theory. Yeah. It's not confirmed, but I think it's kind of clear, but, But yeah, there's a lot of very interesting themes at play in this movie. But
newsflash for anybody that's young out there, you're not going to find anybody. You can find somebody who you think you match. You're not going to find anybody you match 100% with. And even if you think you can find somebody you can match 99.99% with, there will still be conflict and compromise in that relationship. And in those relationships, you have to discover what you're willing to compromise and what you're willing to live with. And that's kind of what this movie explores is he loved her so much that all the things that he thought he hated and he wanted to leave, he was like, no, I was okay with those things after I think about it and contemplate. So, sometimes
that's why I kind of think the the bad things getting erased first kind of fucks with that, because
it does.
If you're
a little
only
bit.
focusing on the if subconsciously if the most recent thing was the happy things that were erased.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but at the end of the relationship, all he could think about was all the bad things. And once those started going, he started remembering the good things. And he's like, oh, holy shit, this was actually good. And maybe the good outweighed the bad. And that's where you get into that internal dilemma of, do I really want to do this?
But also, though, it goes back to that other thing, too, of like, you can't have good without bad, and vice versa.
Correct. Yeah.
Like,
it's yin and yang. Yeah.
You can't. And
the good side and the dark side.
No relationship is perfect. You could get along with somebody, like you said, 99.999%, but there's still going to be
0.01% still fucking matters.
There's still going to be something there, and it's how you deal with that makes or breaks a relationship. And I don't know if you guys have ever watched Scrubs. It's one of my favorite shows ever.
It's a great show.
Dr. Cox, one of the central characters in that show, in one of the episodes, has a really great quote about relationships that I think is very pertinent to this very movie. And he says, bottom line is, couples who are truly right for each other will wade through the same crap as everybody else. But the big difference is they don't let it take them down. One of those two people will stand up and fight for that relationship every time if it's right and they're real lucky.
Yeah.
And that's true. Yeah. Everybody who's in a relationship deals with the same stuff. But
sure, absolutely.
Not everybody.
And some can stick it out for 47 years,
right.
And some will get divorced after, 5 or 10.
And by the end of the movie, I think you're really left on while it is a little bit ambiguous of whether or not they'll work out for the long run, or if they're doomed to just fail again on repeat. I personally take it on the more positive note that both of them are left with the thought that, like, well, hey, I was with this person for 3 years. Obviously, there's something about them that I love and cherish enough so that I was so heartbroken that I would have them erased from my fucking memory.
Yep. It meant something.
That I'm willing to go through that again. And now, hopefully, with this new knowledge, we could, do a better job this time around. And I think they both sort of feel that way at the end of the movie. So I exit the movie on a more positive note. What about you guys?
Mine is a little kind of worse, maybe.
So you think they're doomed to fail again?
Well, I think that not Mary. Kate's character was
Clementine.
Impulsive. Yeah. Clementine was very impulsive.
Incredibly
impulsive.
She got
it. So that's why she got the procedure done. I can't even remember Jim Carrey's
Joel Barish.
Joel's character was like, he was just trying to get back at her, so that's why he got it done.
Yep.
But I think
there was some animosity for sure.
I think the reason that these people maybe craved the relationship afterwards is, like, when they remove this stuff from their brains, the brain's like fighting to maybe get back what was taken from the brain. So it may seem like they're fighting for this relationship from a place of like love and all this, but scientifically, maybe the brain is just trying to replace the memories that was taken.
Maybe that's interesting. I never thought of that.
Well, and you also get into the argument of the relationships out of convenience, where sometimes people are together longer than they should be, just because it's convenient for their lifestyle, and they're miserable, and they should probably leave each other.
Yeah.
But this is one of those, like, where, he's vindictive towards her at the end because, she's irresponsible and he doesn't want to talk about things and all that stuff. But I mean, I don't know. It was a great movie.
It is a banger. And you just mentioned something and then it slipped my mind, Marvin.
Me?
Yeah, what was the last point you just made?
The brain fighting to replace memories that were lost.
Yeah.
What else?
No, that's a super interesting point.
I don't know if that's a thing, but like, how like when you forget something, you fixate on this thing until you can remember it.
Yeah, maybe it's just the natural processes of the brain repairing itself or something like that, for sure. Like filling the gaps with something else. Well, the brain does do that. That's how like our eyes work and stuff like that. Like
that's right.
Like
you
the
black
brain,
out
like,
whole years of your life through trauma.
Well, there's certain parts of like vision and stuff that like a lot of it is your brain like filling in the information.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah, but the brain is an amazing thing. Obviously, we all know that. And it'd be cool if someday something like, I'm not cool. It would actually probably be pretty crazy and stupid if people were doing this, running around doing this.
Hey, Severance, bro. It makes me want to go watch Severance again.
It is very similar to Severance, actually, in that way.
Yeah.
Or Severance is like this, but you could just flip it on
Severance
and off.
is like this. Yeah.
But
it's upgrading tech a few years later.
yeah. They upgraded it.
That's future tech.
But
software update.
Oh, so that's what I was gonna say. There's a lot of like little like nuances and subtleties in the movie that I feel like you could like miss out on when you're watching it. Like, and you know, it's taken me watching it many times to sort of just pick up on them. Like, they had a really good relationship. You know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
well, from what we saw,
right. That's like that's
until the end. We don't know how long it was good. But yeah.
Well, for sure. I mean, so yeah, I don't know. I just exit the movie on a more positive note. I like, I feel like I don't, you know, you guys know me. I don't believe in like anything. So I don't really have these like, you know, thoughts of like, oh, meant to be together or soulmates or whatever. But I think, but I do think that there are people that are the closest possible thing to what a soulmate could be. I do think that exists. I think there are people that we are like max compatible with out there. You know what I mean?
There are people who come into your orbit.
Yeah.
That may not be immediately there, but they're always there and they come and go because they're in your orbit.
Whether you find that person or not,
and there's a lot of that in this.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, I mean, like, so, I mean, I guess that's like the final question, right? Are they meant to be together or not?
Is it fate? Is it
fate?
will?
Is it not? Is it free will? Yeah.
Right.
But ultimately, I think it's a movie about the value of memory. And it reminds us the importance of embracing the entirety of our experiences, both the good and the bad, you know, the joyous and the painful, because that's just what life is. And these experiences and memories, regardless of the emotional weight they have on us, shape our identities. Like I said before, they guide our actions to some extent. To what extent, we don't know yet. But ultimately, that's what makes us human, right?
Well, that's what it goes back to is, you know, these people are erasing their fucking memories to avoid the pain, but you can't have pleasure without pain. Like,
and you can't,
it's yin and yang. It has to be a balance of both.
And you can't grow as a person without experiencing pain. You know what I mean? It's just part of life.
And it's definitely a roller coaster. There's highs and lows.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know, most of the time you're riding around somewhere in the middle.
One thing I thought was super interesting was when he was trying to hide within other memories not connected to her.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they were basically deleting those memories too because they had to at that point.
Yep, they had to get
I was
them out.
thinking like, what if he just kept jumping and then he has nothing. He's nothing left.
He's just a vegetable.
He comes out and he's like a fucking baby, like ooh, he doesn't even know what the fuck is going on. Like,
well, I think I could be wrong, but I thought when that's happening, Tom Wilkinson's explaining he's finding them and just deleting them from that memory. Not the memory itself.
That makes more
pulling
sense.
them out.
Yeah, I think that's what was happening. But that is a funny thought, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad you liked it. Did you watch it with C?
I didn't get to watch it with C. Sadly, I watched it today. That was the first thing I watched when I woke up today.
Okay, I'm glad you liked it. I thought there was a part of me that thought maybe you would find it boring, but it has an 8.3 on IMDb. I got bumped that up to a 9.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
It's a solid 9 for me.
I'll give it a 9. That's
shit.
It's the highest score I'll give a film, but this one's up there. Yeah,
9s across the board.
I mean, it's about love. You know,
it is. Well, it's about it is. It's about love and how, like, you know, sometimes love is just more important than anything else. Like, yeah, maybe we're gonna fucking hate each other, but who cares? Let's enjoy it while we can.
Well,
you know?
There's
what if
there's
going to
be a disdain? That's life. Life is messy. There's going to be a disdain sometimes. It's about living through that and fighting through that and still loving that person and making each other better people.
I don't see how it could be
It could
worse
be worse
for them.
And now the clinic is likely shutting down because
Probably. They
Mary fucked everything up.
Oh yeah, she blew
that's what I was gonna say.
What if I'm just saying? What if it's worse and it's like, oh my god, this ending was way fucking worse.
Oh, then they just go their separate ways.
It had been so long since I'd seen this.
Yeah, but they'll be stuck with like double trauma at that point.
Yeah.
Double trauma.
It had been so long since I'd seen this, I didn't remember whether or not she got a tape. So I was thinking, like, subconsciously, I was like, wait a minute. Did she just tell him? Did she know of this place and just tell him that she fucking got her mind wiped to make him get his mind wiped because she didn't get the tape? Because it's been a while since I see it, but she got the tape. So I was
it was David Cross's fault.
Yeah, fucking David Cross. So that's what's his name?
What is it? Rob.
Fucking Rob.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is your favorite Make Marvin watch yet, huh?
Yeah, I would say so.
All right.
Nice. Movies like this don't exist anymore. I was thinking about that. There was a
Charlie Kaufman is a treasure. He's made some fucking bangers.
So is Michel Gondry, but I'm just saying there was a point in time where like movies like this were made a lot, and now they're not anymore. They're few and far between. Like this movie was produced for $20 million, which is not a lot of money, but it's not an indie budget.
Explosion in sight.
No, not and honestly, a lot of the movie,
scene.
a lot of what you think was CGI was like camera tricks. There was some CGI in the movie, but a lot of it was done with like just camera tricks. But $20 million budget, and it made $74 million worldwide. So that's profit, baby.
That's right.
That's profit.
It's Charlie Kaufman's most profitable and Michel Gondry's second most profitable. Nice. Little interesting tidbit. But yeah, so awesome movie. Glad you liked it. It's definitely on my Mount Rushmore of films. But what do you folks think? Are they destined to fail yet again? Or will their relationship be stronger because of this experience? Let us know in the comments what your theories are about that and their fate. And leave a like on the video, I guess, if you liked the conversation. And perhaps consider subscribing. But other than that, we got nothing more to say, folks. We'll catch you in the next episode.
Hasta.